Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Live Reality Games podcast of Survivor Maryland Season 7, a Major Conflict. Here today, I'm with the great Naomi. Naomi, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm psyched. I loved this episode, and I'm so excited that we get to talk to our guest today about everything that happened. I couldn't be more excited.
And our guest is the wonderful Teresa. Teresa, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. So excited to speak to you both about this episode.
What a doozy.
A doozy is right.
You mentioned right before we started the show that you rewatched the episode, or you saw it for the first time last night. What was going through your head experiencing everything that happened to you 4 years ago?
So what was going through my head is that I knew where I stood in the process of it. I knew I was the second episode, so I was more interested in what other people were saying when I rewatched this episode than I was I remember the challenge, I remember what happened, but you saw my final speech once I got voted off, and I was legitimately blindsided, and I had no words, and now I got to be able to listen in. So it was interesting.
Well, before we get all the way to your inevitable voting out, can you talk a little bit what got you into Survivor Maryland to begin with?
Yeah, of course. So Holly, she's been in I don't even know how many seasons now, was my college roommate sophomore year, and we're from the same area. So her and I have been friends for, 8 or 9 years now. And I remember living with her, and she'd leave at the crack of dawn and stay out until 2 a.m. She's telling me that she stood on light poles for hours on end. Oh. And and I just kind of sit back and laugh. She continues to do online things, and she's always dragged me into it, being her professional videographer and things like that. And if I remember correctly, at the time, they were they had the idea of the major conflict, and we're still looking for more girls, especially to be casted for it. And so she brought it up to me, and I was like, I don't know. And then she definitely talked me into it. She's like, it is what it is. You can either do really well, or you're just going to meet some really fun people and be a part of this family. And that's that. Doesn't matter how you do. It's just all for a good time. Some little good competition. I'm always here for competition. If you couldn't, I was casted very well. People speak very hard truth about me, this big type A, competitive. That is me. So only truth there. But that's how I got into the Survivor Maryland, and I love Austin. Being friends with Holly, I got in be really good friends with some of the other casts before I was involved in it, and I really just loved being around them. So it was a good opportunity for me to be involved in and meet some new people.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Did Holly prepare you for what you were about to embark on?
I kind of wish she did. Now you mentioned it, I definitely should have asked her for more advice, but she's such a sort of TV Survivor fan, and I've seen it, but she has that perfect mindset, the who I need to do and what I need to say to this person. And I'm a very straightforward person. I say how I feel. I read it across my face. I don't hide my emotions very well. So I definitely could have used a lot more strategizing tips before I started. So I definitely should have taken some more advice, but I feel like she was also trying to lay off because everyone around her in the community kind of knew what was happening, kind of was casting their votes about who they think would go out when and what teams and stuff. So
that's funny.
I think she was kind of you know what, do this, but then also kind of standing back and just letting me see what happens.
Did people in the game know that you were Holly's roommate? They talk so much about the connections that everyone's
I know. Wait, that's so funny that you mentioned that, because I'm listening and I'm I didn't know all these people knew each other like that. It's oh, this person, they were friends. I've seen the pictures on Facebook. I'm wow, you guys really dug deep. I just kind of showed, honestly, I really did just kind of show up and just let's see what happens. But no, I don't think so. I think the only people, Mike, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. That.
Yeah.
Other than that, no.
Did you have any idea? So you had no idea about the depth of connections that are going on with these other players?
No, and actually, I thought it was really funny because I actually watching this back brings back so many good memories because I remember meeting them all, and like STEM is such a broad
Mm-hmm.
Right.
topic. I don't really know what to call it. It's such a broad field, and it encapsulates so many different types of people. And I remember when I first like met my whole tribe, I'm like, there are very few people like me, and I think that I represent like a good part of like my major being like a pre-PT, like that out, like the more type A, outgoing, sporty. And then I was surrounded by all these engineers, and I'm like, wow, we have nothing in common. I think I literally said on that first episode, I'm like, wow, you're an engineer, so we can talk about literally nothing together. So
Yeah, I thought that was
I
pretty
said that in front of
notable.
the on the mall to someone.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it a little bit more? Because everyone else in your tribe is some sort of engineer or computer
Yes.
science, and you're the only like you're kinesiology. You're the only other kind of science discipline that encompasses STEM. Do
Yes.
you want to talk to that a little bit more?
I will talk to it in the fact that I definitely think it was a disadvantage towards me. I think that I kind of missed that interaction. I think the other big thing that if I don't really remember correctly, anyone talking about is all of them were like younger than me. I'm pretty sure junior at the time, and they all lived on campus, and I lived off campus. So they're all like going to the dining halls, and like in between classes, they're all in the same classes. And like I mentioned the thing about Amanda as like the only person who's reaching out to me. I have a funny story about her. And like that really was it though, because they all interacted in like their day to day. And like the engineering building is nowhere near like the public health building. So like I didn't really interact with them very much. So it definitely made it challenging. And I definitely think that it like polarized my personality type even more because they are all similar. And then there was me like this. There definitely people like me, like Delaram is definitely a little bit like more outgoing, more like me, but then she's still that very like hard science minded versus I'm a very like social science minded type of individual. And I definitely think that people's majors obviously reflect the type of people that they are, or else you wouldn't really get into that field. So
right, especially like PT and things like that is such a social job. You're dealing with so many different kinds of people who come in and have to trust you and things like that, whereas computer science and STEMs can be really sort of insular and just focused on like logic and smarts. It's a really good point of like, if you're not living near some of these people, we see it in the episode alliances form based on like literal campus location. It can be a
little
huge
dorms.
detriment. Yes,
absolutely.
So I was just wondering, when you did this first challenge and you said, I'm going to go up against the toughest, I totally admire that because that's how I feel too, is like, I'm going to prove that I'm strong or like vote me out. I don't care. So when you were going against these people and losing points, you saw that as more valuable than, because it's kind of like a big point of, I don't want to say controversy, but like a big talking point on your tribe is people being like, well, I think that this wasn't a good move. And you were like, I defend this. Other people lost or other people didn't do anything. And I think they're worth less than me attempting to win points.
Yep.
Can you talk us? Yeah. So did anybody express this to you, or were you kind of learning that people thought this about you in the episodes?
Oh, no, I was learning all this through the episodes. Yeah, no one said anything to me after that, but I completely stand by like what you just said, because like if no one's going to step up to the plate, I'm going to step up to the plate because that's just the type of person that I am. I would rather go through something and lose and learn something from it than I would to just like back off and do nothing. So if no one else wanted to step up, like I'm competitive enough. Did I think that girl, I don't remember her name, I'm sorry. That episode was like a week ago and my brain is flushed from work.
It was also technically 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was 4 years ago. Yeah. But like, did I think I was going to lose? Absolutely. But was I going to give it like 100% of my effort? Absolutely. And to me, that's more valuable than like points. Yeah, no, I stand by that 100%.
We also saw people like Eric totally dogged. Was it Mike? He totally dogged somebody in like the first round where I was like, oh, Eric's screwed. And then he totally beat him out. So like things can happen. People can miss it when they grab it. There's always a chance if you're fast enough that you can sort of outpace the other person. So weight class does not always equal like definitely going to win or lose.
But man, it helps.
Yeah, and I'm definitely an advocate for like it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Like that's 100% something I live by. Like I'm a tiny little person. I'm 5'2", but I will like give you 110% and like give you my best shot for sure. And yeah, I do think that has more value than like points. But then like this is where I could have used some more Holly advice. Like it's not your best move, honey. Like find value elsewhere. That's not going to get you far.
One of our big questions, I think, is in the first episode, we see that you vote for Dane and it's Chris who votes with you. But then in the next episode, Amanda says that she voted for Dane. Did you and Chris ever talk and confirm that actually it was Chris who voted for Dane with you?
Not that I can remember. No, I think once it was one thing, and then I just kind of like turn the page and move on.
Right. Once Amanda established,
definitely my downfall in this game is like people like I'm not a big grudge holder either, so it's like I'm like, all right, next week let's see what happens, and people are like behind, they're like, oh, Teresa said this, Teresa said that, she's made some comment, I didn't like it, she speaks over me, I don't like that, and I'm sitting over here, I'm like, all right, another week, let's see what happens.
Could you speak to a little why you were targeting Dane that first vote?
So I was watching that back and I'm like, no, really nothing. I just think that like personality wise, honestly, and like Dane and I have no problems. Hey Dane, if you watch this, I have no issue with you. But I think I said it in one point. I'm just like, he just like during that initial meetup, he just said his name and then said nothing. And like that for me being like that extrovert type A, like doesn't hit me the right way. Like I know you're not someone that's gonna like me,
right?
So like I might as well try and cut trees while I'm ahead. I don't know. I already know people of his personality type. Nothing wrong with that. Like I just know you're not gonna like that big aggressive personality like mine. So,
did you know that Natalia was going to be voted out? Like, did you know that even though you were voting for Dane, it was going to be somebody else?
No, I think that speaks to my downfall and like my lack of engagement in like the greater half of my own tribe. I definitely like stuck to my couple of people and then kind of just leaned heavily on them. Especially that time, like I think it was this episode, everyone was complaining about the early morning tribal. Mm-hmm. Like and if you see me in the video with Amanda, that's in my car. I'm in like a halter neck type of outfit. I'm going to my friend's formal in like 20 minutes. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe she's the reason that we have to go at 8 a.m. Like I literally had plans a month in advance that night. And you're lucky I sat in my car right now and had this conversation. Like,
well, right.
I went upstairs, curled my hair and laughed. Like, that's why I'm in like a face and a dress.
Normally, like you don't have tribals so like 1 day, 2 days after. It's really awesome, such a quick start. So I don't blame you for being like, look, I got shit to do. Like we'll figure this out.
And I think it was Dane that made the comment. They made the comment like, well, T was the only one who didn't do the 11:30 tribal. Like, really? I'm the only one.
11:30 at night is like just as bad. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Kenise has 8 a.m. every day, so I don't.
You're ready for it.
I'm ready. Yeah, 8 a.m. I'm already up. Let's go.
Well,
I was just going to say, maybe this is what you're about to say, Stephen. Amanda talks you through the fact that Natalia votes for you. Who did you think voted for you before you found out that it was Natalia? I think you say Sadie, but I don't really know.
Maybe that, or maybe Dane. Because I think as much as I try to read other people's energies, people can definitely read mine. Like as soon as Dane went quiet, I'm like, all right, like block you out next, move on to like the I'm trying to like build whose personalities line up with mine really early. So I easily could have put up a blinder to him that he didn't like, or he clearly didn't like, because he definitely got on that Teresa ball really early and snowballed that, I'm sure. Sorry that I keep touching my ears. These things, I have not figured out how to fit these in my ear yet.
That's all good.
No, that's why I don't have them. I don't like them. I don't trust them.
Yeah, and they're the new ones. But and I'm like, gosh, they don't like. Do I point them down? Do they point like this way? Anyway, so no is the answer to that. I did not. No.
And you just kind of didn't think it was Natalia. It didn't hit you until Amanda explained it.
Yeah, honestly, yes. Because, and again, that's my own fault, because I wasn't like let me reach out to so and so. Let me like put this into group me. Let me do this and that. Like I was just like, all right, I trust you. Which is
Well, because when you were talking to Amanda, you're like, you voted with me, right? And she's like, yes, I voted with you. I voted as Dane, and you trusted her in that moment, right?
yeah.
And so Chris
I learned really quickly rewatching it. It's so funny to me. This is a great time to tell this story because I clearly got blindsided by literally everybody. And then at the end of everything, like there's like a whole little like pregame with everybody. Amanda was terrified to see me, absolutely mortified. Like she literally, when I first got there, because I showed up with Holly, she like literally was like walked away, and I went up to her and I'm like, hey, because like I still don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I really thought that you would hate me, and I'm like, why would I hate you? Like this is just for like a good time. Like I'm all good. And now I watch it. Now I'm watching it now, and I'm like, this is why you were afraid. Either way, like no bad feelings about anybody.
No, I think anyone who like. Nothing in this episode really indicates that anybody dislikes you. I think they were just tired at 8 a.m., right? And they're like, this is how I feel.
I think in the episode, like Dane speaks to his dislike towards me, and Amanda definitely speaks towards being like, I don't understand why she trusts me. Like, I don't like her. I'm pretty sure she straight up says that on the couch in Andrew's room. I'm pretty sure she straight up's like, I don't know why Teresa trusts me. And then someone else made a really good point. Like, I think it was Eric. I don't remember who it was, but it was like, I asked Teresa like who she was talking to, and she's like straight up like she's like, at least lie.
Well, I think Steven and I have played sort of enough of these games where you say that you hate someone in the middle of the moment, and then you come out and you're like, oh no, I just I just felt very strongly because my butt was on the line. Sometimes people like say things that they are either way too out of proportion because it's a fake Survivor game that everybody takes way too seriously, or they just come out of it and they're like, oh, well, in a completely different environment where we're not voting each other out, I like this person very much. It just
no, absolutely.
So what were you thinking during this challenge, this Diffuse the Bomb challenge? Because I think you're a very vocal person in being like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're messing this up. How did you feel during the challenge?
Stressed. Like, honestly, like I was watching the challenge back and I like was really trying to think back to that moment. I think I honestly blacked out because it was just like so much going on at once. And like, I felt like my tribe was like organized chaos. Like it was unorganized, but organized. And I really wish I could like sit here and be like, yeah, in that moment I felt like this, but in that moment I like hyper focused because I'm entirely too competitive. And then there were just like so many voices coming in at once saying things, and like people weren't like matching things up, and it got messy.
So you think the issue with your tribe was that no one was able to take that leadership role and like manage everyone?
I think if that role is missing, then I'm usually that type of person to step into that role. And I think it was just like the lack of effective communication that was the bigger issue. And I think I said that during the tribal ceremony where they voted me off. Thank you, Anders. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet.
Anders one of the nicest queen.
One of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. I miss you dearly. But
I think that challenge particularly because so Anders had said in a different thing, it's based off of a Jackbox game, which I have played. That game is fucking stressful. And if you aren't working with a group of people who will listen to you, because sometimes you just need to say, everyone shut the hell up. I have the idea. I know what's going on. And if people don't, and you can't get a word in edgewise, nothing goes right.
Yeah. I think I maybe in that moment made that general comment, like everybody needs to kind of like figure it out, like break it down into smaller parts.
Yeah.
I just don't think that like as a whole we were like talking through each thing. I feel like the clues got mixed up, and like first off, that challenge is ridiculously hard to start with.
Yes.
But it was definitely a challenge I would say that we went into. We were like, oh yeah, like the engineers, the STEM people have got this. Like, you know, like that, it's like that logic, the logical thinkers,
right?
Like you mentioned earlier, with like that major type. Like we were like, okay, we got this.
And for all intents and purposes, it should be a very logical game. And if you just think about it logically, nice and slow, it'll be fine. But that's what makes it such a good Survivor challenge is like the chaos emerges and nobody can think straight. And like, as Anders says, insanely bad at communication, the STEM tribe during this challenge. Which,
yeah,
it happens.
It's like insanely bad. It was just like ineffective. It was just like people talking. And then I think I made the one comment out like, Delaram, love you, girl. Think you're amazing. Congrats on your 4K across the country.
Wow.
She like, yeah, she had the biking across the country for cancer. Huge shout out to her. Such a sweet girl. Like she at one point was just like blew up, and I'm like, that's not the way to do it either. So like I stood by that comment, but Delaram doesn't like the fact that I butt in. So like, you know, everybody has their gives and their takes, their pluses and their minuses. But like, it was just a big, honestly, like a. Can I curse on this? Can I?
Yes, you can definitely curse. Go nuts.
It was just like a giant clusterfuck. Yeah, there's like no better way to describe it besides clusterfuck.
So Anders has a really great question, which is watching the episodes. What do you wish you did differently? Is there anything that kind of hit you as like, oh, if I had maybe done this, things would have worked out differently?
I can't speak for myself in like the moment because I think I had a lot of other things going on in like my own life outside of this game and like maybe within my major or within my personal life. So I can't really speak about like that. But looking back now that I'm like I'm still super competitive. I'm like, I wish I would just interacted with more people within my own tribe because I definitely stuck to the same people. I wasn't really reaching out to anybody. So in the game sense, I wish that I had definitely butted my head into more conversations because that essentially led to my downfall. I wasn't in any like I'm watching this back. I'm like, this is hilarious. There are like literally 65% of my tribe in one room and I don't even know about it. I know nothing. So
and not to mention, like, I think in any other situation, literally any other Survivor situation, you are with your tribe 100% of the time. You're spending time with them. You are getting to interact with everybody, either all at once or in small groups. But in this situation where it's really dependent on making the effort to hang out with people, when things are going on at school and in personal life, it can be very tough to just make the time to meet with strangers. Like, you don't even know if you like these people, so why are you going to hang out with them? And I think it's really funny that probably in any other scenario, you are able to have more time to socialize. And it's just the sort of being on campus that makes it really difficult to find the time. Anders,
and you can ask like
Anders asks, did Holly give you any advice? We had covered this earlier. Not really.
she let her figure it out on her own.
Holly was like general things, but then Holly was like, you know, she was also like watching the game a little bit, and so she had her like picks and things like that. I do want to know like where Holly thought I'd get. Like, I doubt Holly thought I would win, and I mean that in the most loving way. Like, she's still one of my closest friends, but I doubt. I think she would know that like parts of my personality, like she will fuck you over, but she will also still love you. Like I will come to a point where I'm like, I won't screw you over. Like, and like that's not the little dashes from Holly, but
Holly's a little more cutthroat.
Oh, Holly's definitely cutthroat for sure.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If the tribal council hadn't been 8 a.m. the following day, and let's say it was like 2 or 3 days from there, would you have done things differently? Do you think just having more time and not that compressed small 3 hours, the scrambling before sleeping, would have made a difference?
That's a really good question. I'm answering very honestly. I think the decision would have been the same, but I don't think it would have been literally everybody on my tribe versus me.
Right.
Yeah, I think
I could have like potentially stirred the pot a little bit, got someone else's name thrown in. Because other people were talking like Amanda, other people talking Eric, and things like that. I definitely think I could have made moves, but that short window when I had something to do that day.
And you probably wanted to get a good night's sleep too.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was on like a boat in DC. I wasn't getting a good night's sleep.
It's that triangle of
Yeah.
school. You can have two: sleep, academics, friends, and you picked academics and friends.
You pick two.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, sleep was not high on that priority list.
Anders
Holly
has
did
mentioned that Holly did in fact draft you in her 6. I would love to see this draft post-season.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
As
A lot
did
of people draft you.
myself, Victoria, Micah, and LeCompte.
oh,
What's
love
like
them
Being
all.
chosen by
Wow.
so many icons.
And it's so funny. Like, that's what's funny is because like I know all of them literally a lot more than I know like most people in my own game.
Right.
Because of Holly. Like I would just hang out with Holly and we go to these pre games and like I'm like, oh my gosh, Victoria, oh my gosh, like look at like Chris. Like so it's funny.
Do you keep in touch with any of the players from your season?
No. I mean I'm Facebook friends, I think, with a couple of them. Other than that, like no, not really.
No, you're not.
Which is fine with me. Yeah. I think that I didn't get to even be on for that long to be like, hey, let's be Facebook friends. I think we're all in like a Facebook group. So if I wanted to interact with any of them, I could, but I don't think too many. Again, I think it's all the older people that like more of them follow me. Older. Why am I saying older people? Older seasons.
To be fair, also, I assume that the people who had played in seasons before are a little bit closer in age to you, and that's always a factor in college, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Like sometimes you hang out with the people who are closer in age to you, and that probably plays a factor.
And the people who go to the bars are going to be a lot more my friends than like the people who Anders.
Teresa kept in touch with Anders because Anders didn't vote her out, and that's true.
Correct.
We actually had a question from one of the hosts of other allergy podcasts, Kirk. He wanted to know if you would ever play another Survivor game again. Maybe you and Holly for Blood versus Water, get you guys to play together.
Man, that's tough. Especially saying me and Holly together. Like as much as Holly and I, like she's one of my best friends. We have like matching tattoos together. Like I'll love that girl till the day I die. But we also like butt heads because the people that I'm really close with have very similar personalities to me, and you can see it in my episode. Like I say this to people all the time. People either like me or they don't. There's not a lot of free floaters in the middle. Like it's not like Teresa. She's like, It's like I like her, or it's like nah. She's too much for me. Like I don't really have people in the middle, and so Holly's very like much like that, and I just feel like we would freaking kill each other.
So
and I feel like our strategies might be different. Would you say, Steven?
Vote Holly?
Would I vote her out?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it came down to it, because I know she would vote my ass out. That's for damn sure. In the nicest way. I love you, Holly, if you watch that.
I do think that like you're sort of like go getting it, like the sort of go getter attitude and the very like I'm here to compete. I think would do great in a game where it was maybe like 2 days long or 3 days long, where it was like we're always together. There's no sort of you're there to play and not so much to like have a social life and then also be playing a game on top of it. I think that would be really interesting to see you play one of those, because I think competitive women often are they either do really well or sometimes people see them as too big of a threat too early on. But I think it would be really fun to watch you play like 2 days, well, even 1 day, just like competing your ass off. I think it would be really fun to watch.
That's so sweet. Thank you. It's funny because it reminds me of like, I'm not sure like how much you guys follow Holly and her little online celebrity career, but like her sequester stuff. I obviously watched that because like how could I not? It's just so freaking entertaining to watch her do like the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
But like I would almost like follow her into rooms and like watch the reactions, and I'm like she just plays it so well. I don't think I have this as much as I think I have like a winning personality. I don't think everybody likes it. No. And I'm the same way. I don't have that like strategic like keep the clocks, keep turning in my head. Like, what's that saying? Like I'm just like I'm like, you guys are in front of me, you're what I'm interacting with. So I'm not like in my head thinking like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? How can I use Naomi right now and like say something like about drag something that Naomi said, pick it in my brain, keep it here, and I'm gonna go to a different conversation. I'm gonna twist her words. And like I don't really think like that.
Right.
I'm
I
like,
mean,
this is what
lying
it
is
is.
hard.
That is what it is.
Yes. And lying is hard. It's exhausting. And I think it takes a lot of stamina to even keep up with your own BS. Like, it's just so hard sometimes.
Yeah, and
Anders also
especially
wants, oh, sorry to cut you off. Anders wants to know, can you talk about your history with Sadie and the soccer team?
yeah, this was some beef that I had like a while ago, and honestly, Anders, I'm not remembering it super well, but it was something along the lines of like so I played club soccer. Sadie played club soccer, and I think like she reached out to me, asked a bunch of questions, and I tried to make her really like comfortable, and then she just like never responded, never showed up, something along those lines. It's essentially next to irrelevant, but in that moment, I had beef about it. Essentially, I was trying to just have beef about something. I don't know, because I like I really I don't know. I was like I needed some vendetta against somebody, and
Right.
that was literally the only person that I knew beforehand on my tribe, and it was literally through Facebook messages. Like that's it. That was the only engagement I had with her, with anybody in my tribe was Sadie.
Right.
So, I mean, next to useless. But yeah, I think Anders, I think it went something like I was really nice to her, and then she, like telling her all about club soccer, and then she literally just like never showed up, never responded.
Okay,
fine.
here we go. She came to a practice, and you were trying to recruit her, and then she ghosted you.
Like, ghosting is so 2016.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh yeah.
2016.
Like
We're
just
all above that.
that's
now.
my thing. That is definitely my thing. Like if you are not interested, this is like just my life tip too. Like just say so. People will come to me advice like, "Oh my gosh, so and so is doing this. What should I do?" Say something. Like why is that so difficult? Like maybe I had a problem with like how one of you was wearing your headphones or was falling out of your ear. I'd be like, "Hey Steven, your headphones falling out of your ear." Like I'm going to tell you how it is. And if I'm not interested, I'm going to be like, "No." Like say to be like, "Hey, I went the one day and it's not for me. I'm going to do something else." Okay.
Right.
Okay, that is what it is. So I don't know. Anders, there's no good answer to that. I was just.
And then Anders says that's why she voted for you through Natalia's body. Because this is a joke about how Sadie did not vote for you. Natalia did. Absolutely hilarious.
So, Teresa, looking back at your experience in Survivor Maryland, what do you think? Did you have a takeaway from the game?
I think I didn't in the moment. I think now it's definitely just like normal life things. Like people may act to you one way and then behind closed doors act a different way. And it's just about how you hold your own demeanor. I was I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried watching it back that I would like roll my eyes at the things I say or like how I interact with people. But like honestly, like that really is what I was really scared about. And I also hate my voice. I'm gonna watch this again and I'm gonna hate my voice. But looking back, I like stand behind almost. I couldn't really pick. I could pick things apart and say like I don't like this one thing that I said, but I overall felt like I stood behind the type of person that I am, and like to this day. So I think that's what's important is that I could have played the game a lot better and I could have pretended to be someone that I'm not, but I didn't. So I just stuck with who I was. And if it was going to work out, then it was going to work out in my favor. And if it wasn't, then like I met a bunch of really cool people. I still stay in touch with amazing people like Anders. And it was a fun thing. And I could say that I did it because like, that's all that matters. I can say that I did it instead of hearing all about Holly and meeting all of her friends and meeting them that way. I can be like, yeah, I played with these people.
I think a big part of Survivor is just putting yourself out there and being willing to take the risk of people not liking you or people, you know, people have not liked me after I've played, and it's fine because it teaches you about yourself and you learn something no matter what. And that like that's the big takeaway. So I'm really excited to hear that like you still had fun and you had a great time.
Oh yeah, it was still like it was fun to be on that side of things, just watching like Holly or listening to Holly do so much dumb shit. So it was nice. It was fun to be on the side of the dumb shit. So
right. And what are you up to now? What's been going on? How is 2020 treating you?
2020 is a shit show, just like it is for everybody else. But that's fine. So I graduated from Maryland, and then I took a gap year. And then from 2018 to just actually this August, I was living in Florida, finishing up the didactic part of my physical therapy degree. So now I'm on clinical rotation. So I am working like a slave. I am paying to work.
Congrats. That's a great feeling.
It's a 12 credit class, 12 grand down the drain. For me to work 40 hours a week, we love to see it. But no, so I'm going through my clinicals right now. It's been an incredible experience. So I was pre-physical therapy, and so in April I will have my doctorate of physical therapy.
Wow, congratulations.
That's gonna be awesome.
Thank you. I'm so thankful that my school has kind of pushed through this COVID stuff, and because so many, obviously, hospital systems and a lot of places just weren't taking students. I'm sure you all have nursing friends or someone going through that same process, and they're all getting just dropped left and right. I'm so thankful that my school really kept advocating for us, advocating for this experience, advocating for our safety, saying that they would supply masks, gloves, whatever might be needed to keep us safe, to keep our patients safe, and that I'm able to even have this clinical experience and not get bumped back, because that was my biggest fear.
Right.
No matter what other bullshit has happened in 2020. Lots of things have happened in my life in 2020, but the most important thing is that I still get to continue to do what I love to do. And like, I honestly do love what I do, and not a lot of people get to say that about their lives. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing.
So as long as everything's messy, but everything is somehow, everything happens for a reason. It is tattooed on my side. I'm the firmest believer that everything happens for a reason. I think this year has happened for a reason, no matter how good, messy, bad, ugly, chaotic, it's all for a reason. So I think that, like, I, for example, wasn't supposed to have the clinical that I'm in right now, and now I'm just the happiest person where I'm at. So it's all for a reason. How are you guys? How was your 2020?
Stressful, you know.
Better than others.
That honestly, yeah. So better than others. Last year, honestly, I think 2019 for me was worse than 2020 so far. Me personally, very personal. So like, let's separate those fields.
Yeah. I've only hit the uptick in 2020 just now, like, and it's mostly because of Survivor games. So we'll see.
Coming back, I'm excited for you guys to keep watching and letting things unravel as they are going to. It's gonna be. Now I'm honestly like, now I feel more engaged in the community again, which is really exciting for me, because now I'm gonna keep watching these and I'm gonna be like, ooh, I want to hear what this person has to say. Right.
You just love that's my favorite part, is getting the sort of gossip of it all.
Yeah, I need you guys to like play devil's advocate for me.
Yeah, did you stick around? No spoilers, but did you stick around? Do you know what happens in the end?
I learned what happens.
Okay.
I can't say I like stuck around, but I learned what happens.
Because now
I've had the conversations. I've talked to people.
Because we're going to talk about what a giant tinderbox your tribe is, because it's going to blow up next round.
Yeah, your tribe is about to blow up.
What did you call it?
A tinderbox.
What does that mean?
It's a box that's easy and ready to ignite.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I think if your tribal had been in 2 or 3 days, you would have been safe.
That's really nice of you to think. I appreciate that. I think people from the, like Andrew said, like Victoria and LeCompte and things like that, I think people were rooting for me and like rooting for like that for my personality, I guess. Like, so it is what it's honestly my favorite. I'll tell you my favorite. And shout out Eric, sweetest human being in the entire world.
Yes. Our chat that's meant to coordinate the episodes is called, I think, Eric Fan Club.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's like he is as much of a giant teddy bear. This is just from memory, because honestly, I haven't seen this kid probably since that little gathering that we had at the end of the season. I haven't seen him since then, but he's like a giant teddy bear. His like laugh, it's like a full body chuckle. Like, he's just so cute and so sweet. Yeah, definitely he deserves all the fan club love in the world. I will join that fan club. I'm Team Eric all the way.
One of us.
Team Eric and Liam. Is he on the other tribe? Liam?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a douche and I'm here for it. Like the cleats that game is an unreal touch. What a touch.
It is really funny.
What an accent point.
Right. If you're on the other tribe, you're like, fuck this guy. But like, like even if I was on the other tribe, I'd be like, this is hilarious.
No, when he literally, I remember this, he wore cleats and I was like, fuck, that is so smart. That's so smart.
I
And
know
when
the
I was like,
last
fuck this
episode.
guy, he cleated me. And I'm like, gosh, cleats, I could have like definitely, I'm like, I could have like dug my foot into the ground, like much more speed and agility if I was wearing my cleats, damn it.
Right.
No, I'm
Cleat
definitely cleat gate stuff. Is that a thing?
Possibly. I don't know if I can. I think I might
Hashtag
have heard
cleat
that
gate.
somewhere.
Naomi's gonna make that thing.
No.
All right. We'll circle.
If I say it another week, I was whipping out the cleats.
Yeah.
1,000%. It was
No
such
doubt.
a power move. It has a lot of controversy, but I'm here for that. So I'm definitely Team Liam and the douchey cleat move. No matter if he spiked whoever on my team bitched about getting cleated from
Seemed
Liam.
like
I can't
half of
remember who it was. Yeah, no, I'm here for it. That's like my personality type though, because I'm like, I'm here for you overly competitive bastard.
Yeah,
He worked cleats.
exactly.
That's so smart. Yes, that is so. And everyone was complaining about it. Like, no, he didn't wear cleats. I'm like, no, you're jealous. I'm jealous. I should have worn cleats.
Right. You're jealous you didn't think of it first. And that's why.
Honestly how I felt. If I say another week, they were coming out. So I'm Team Liam and I'm Team Eric. Absolutely, for sure.
So, Teresa, those are all our questions. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute blast. We really appreciate your time.
It has been so fun. I need you all to kind of be my devil's advocate and be like, so what did you think of Teresa? Like, really want you to dig in future episodes for my behalf, so that I can be like,
you can do that.
We will ask every single voted out player, what did you think of Teresa from
every
now
single
on?
I'm gonna watch. Did you talk to anyone last week?
We talked to Natalia, yes.
I'm gonna rewatch it and see if she named.
I believe she does talk about you.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna be like, because it's just another way to like, it's in the past, but it's another way to like, what did you think about me?
Well, what did you think?
I'm interested. I'm here. So what do you think? We're here now. I'm 25. What are you, like 23, 22? How old are you? Like,
they're all Gen Z. Like, I can't take it. It's Gen Z.
I know. They probably have like TikToks and things like that. No shame. I make TikToks, but only with my dad. Because my dad
Natalia and we did talk about TikTok, and we did talk about how Survivor Maryland does need a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
In like the moment, it would be super cool.
You've got like 5 days to do it because Trump's about to ban it. So
yeah, but I read somewhere that if you still have it, it'll work.
You can't download
but like
it.
eventually over time, like without the bug fixes and without the updates, it's just gonna turn into ass. So
all right.
But it's not, don't worry. Instagram is gonna have something just like it. If they don't already, they kind of do. Like the next US approved company is going to, not non-China, is going to make something extremely similar, and everyone's just going to shift that way. Because I was a huge Vine girl. That's how I know that I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, me too. And like when Mike is wearing his like Yik Yak shirt, that brings me back.
Campus Yik Yak was so funny. Holly and I were like up that shit all goddamn day long.
Yes.
I remember one of my Yik Yaks got like over 500 ups, and I was like, oh, I'm a star.
Yik Yak, what a place. What a time and an era.
What a time to be alive.
Just like puts you exactly, when you see Mike wearing the Yik Yak shirt, you know exactly when this was filmed. You're like, yes.
That is so true. And it's just like, I think about like what I was wearing and like what people nowadays wear and like all that type of thing. Like, I feel so old. Like, where's your awkward phase? Where is your phase of college where you don't have eyebrows?
Right.
Right now, you all have eyebrows.
Right. They're all shaving their heads. It's like, but they look good shaving their heads. It's like, this took fair.
This took like till like sophomore, junior year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So like, where is your terribly awkward phase? I'm missing it. I'm missing it.
Gen Z has makeup tutorials and it's not fair.
I know. Wait, side comment, because I just thought about it. Because you guys asked me about like me and mixing well with my tribe. I literally, now that I'm thinking about it, because you guys have now like got my wheels turning. I remember after the first day thinking that I would get along better with like literally the business majors than my own tribe. That's so funny. I just remember that. 100%. Yeah. Like I literally thought like they were so much more like talkative and outgoing and like fun. And then my like, not that my tribe wasn't that, but like at my level, let's call it, that like very uppity level. Like I act like I've had 6 cups of coffee from 6 a.m. to like midnight. Like I'm always this up. Like I've already worked 10 hours today and I'm already like, woo, 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 let's go.
Yeah, I think there should be 3 tribes. There should be like the communications tribe that's just like everybody's sleeping until noon and like they all don't do anything. And they're like, oh, I brought a camera.
Throw them under the bus. Throw them under, honey.
Or we can have the engineer tribe, we can have the business school tribe, we can have the everyone else tribe.
Like the English major tribe. It's just like I wrote a poem about this whole thing.
I think we need to have them based on like amount of daily communication with others. So like
or period.
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah,
it'd be like
how many people do you socialize with in a day and then divide them by
how would you act at a happy hour? Let's divide you off.
Oh gosh.
There's me.
Have you ever been to a happy hour?
Have
you ever been to a happy hour? Like, do you convince the owner to get the owner of the bar, or the bartender, to get you a round of shots for free? Or are you talking to everybody in the room? Do you have your 6 friends from work that you already talked to all day and you're still only speaking to them all day at this happy hour? And then did you show up and you're
like,
just
did you
kind
just
of
order
around
wings
staring
and no
quietly?
alcohol? Like, you
get it.
Yep.
You get it. Did you come for the free food?
Naomi, I think this would be on your application for future Survivor seasons. You enter a bar. Who do you talk to? What do you do? What do you order? You can extrapolate from that for your
Wait, that should be an interview question.
100%. 100%.
If my future employer asks me that, I feel prepared to answer.
See what value we add.
My first question, my first thing I say back will be a question. I'll be like, who's paying?
You're right. Are we putting?
I'm paying. It's gonna be like 2 drinks and an apps. 2 drinks and an apps if I'm paying. We'll have the cat call tribe, the alcohol tribe, and the DD tribe. Anders, wait. Anders, which tribe would I go into? Go ahead. Anders, where am I? Anders, where are you placing me? You place me in this tribe, this STEM, the engineering tribe. Where would you place me?
Oh my god.
Anders, where are you?
Meanwhile, there's like me who's like, oh, I'm gonna drink a shitty PBR in my living room and call it a night. It's like, there we go. That's my tribe.
If you went to Ben's, oh wait, where are you guys from? I don't actually know anything.
Los Angeles.
You're from LA? I'm from New York. We're opposite sides of the world.
No, Anders, I want you to tell me.
Anders' answer is cryptic.
I'm in Maryland, so hence the University of Maryland thing. But yeah, like there's a bar. It's like I would be like the application, Anders, in the future. Oh, my speaker's over here. The application, there was none, or at least I didn't fill out one. Sorry, to spoil that surprise for anybody. If there was one, I did not fill it out. I would be like, you walk into Ben's. A, could you have walked into Ben's? B, alcoholics. Oh, you're so sweet to me, Anders. So you think I'm like, would you walk into Ben's? A, I couldn't get in. What is Ben's? B, you asked. I dated a bartender for Ben's, so I know this. You walk into Ben's and you order a Wells drink.
Right.
C, at the time I was drinking a lot of Georgia pizzas. C, you order Georgia peach. D, you order a fucking like Bud Light. That's how it should be divided up, Anders.
Yeah, that's a great.
Or E, I'm drinking water. I'm watching my friends get fucked up so that you can have your
DD tribe. Woo!
Yeah. I'm walking everybody home single file.
I'm the mom. When I'm drunk and I like someone else is more drunk than me and I'm aware of it, I like snap. Oh my god, it's the person home. That's actually how I met Holly. Hilarious. Way back when I met Holly because I was at a party and like drinking a little bit, but I was DDing, so I like had a couple, but like enough. Like I knew my line. I was there for like 5 hours. I had like maybe 3 drinks. And then my friend was like hammered. So I'm like, boom, mom mode. I'm like, all right, let's get you in my car. But like, she's like puking and she's like I'm not tall. I'm 5'2". She's much taller than me. So Holly comes up to me. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm like pre-PA. She knows I would do this voice for her too. I'm pre-PA. I'm hot. Like, let me help you. I'm like, all right, random bitch. Sure, help me get this girl into my car. So literally like drag my friend into my car. She's like, here's my phone number. As an RA, I give people not to drink on my floor. At least do it quietly in their own rooms by themselves.
See, it's not my problem as an RA. Continue.
Yeah, so literally like she helps me drag my friend to my car. She's like, here's my number. Let me know how she is tomorrow morning. I'm like, all right, psychopath. So I don't text her. And then 2 weeks later, I see her at another party, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're that girl. Like, let's be friends. And then I actually transferred to Maryland, and I literally fucking tweet out, like, anybody need a roommate? Boom. Allie tweets me back. They need a fourth in their thing. And the rest is history. One day she's playing what's she playing? She's playing another Survivor game online. And she asked me to record her. What's she doing? Interpretive dancing in the bread aisle.
Yep.
And doing an adult diaper commercial. And I literally recorded her. That was me. I am her videographer. That is me. And then she took me out to lunch, and she's like, oh, I get like X amount of points if I get a tattoo. And I'm like, all right, bet, cool. She's like, can you look up on Pinterest, like tattoos? So I can get another one. She has like a moon right here, which is going to get sun on her next finger. So can you look up sun tattoos? I'm like, yeah. So we looked up sun tattoos. I'm like, oh my gosh, this one's so cute. I'll get it in a heartbeat. She's like, oh yeah, a heartbeat? Let's go. 2 hours later, we had tattoos.
Incredible.
That's me and Holly, though. Holly and I do like the funniest shit. That's my
Holly
adventure
ever
girl.
bring up that like you both did Survivor and she did better than you? Does she use that against you now?
No.
She's a better friend than that.
I think now that if she watches this, she's going to use it against me. But that's so funny because I feel like she would, but not that I can think of. No, I don't think that she has used it against me. I think that she knew I had no strategy. So I think she was even like,
let you alone.
She still drafted you. She still picked you.
She still drafted me because she knows that like I'm a people person. So probably if like I don't disagree with Steven, maybe if I had more chance to be like my people person self, that I could have done better. But it is what it is. I'm super excited for you guys to watch the rest of it. It's gonna be fun.
We are too. Teresa, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yes, this was so fun. You guys were so fun. Congrats on doing this. This is an adorable way to like bring back such good memories. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Look, that's great. I can't wait till we get to the point where they are not good memories and we're just dredging up shit for people that are like, oh my god.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. I can't wait for like you to completely like bury someone's grave. Like just
give us time. It'll happen.
Push. Really, honestly, I want you to push people's buttons. Like, get Eric to get a little mean if you ever talk to him. Like
yes, if we talk to Eric, we'll get him to say that he
people
hates
like that too. Like Chris was really sweet. Like he was a nice guy. So like definitely like dig into those emotions. I'm here for it. I'm ready. I'm ready to keep watching this. This is gonna be entertaining. And do me that salad. Let me
absolutely.
Wonderful.
We're always gonna ask them, what did you think of Teresa?
It should be question number one. No, we're talking about question number one.
It to question number one in our document.
Question number one is who are you at Bent's? That's the first question. Because then you can steer the conversation accordingly.
Right. We can steer.
Are you ordering shots? Figure it out.
We can fan cast this season, rearrange the tribes. It'll be fun.
You know, honestly, could you do it? I want you guys to do like a personality thing.
We'll get Anders back on and we'll do like a recasting once the whole season is over.
Please, because I think that I would literally I wouldn't be with. I'd put maybe.
I feel like you and Mike would end up on a tribe together.
Mike M.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mike's fun as shit.
That's all from watching the 2 episodes. That's all I've got so far. We're gonna keep at it.
Oh no, he's such a fun kid, and him and I have like he's my type at the bar. I'm telling you, he's the one drinking and like knows what he's doing. He's a fun kid.
Amazing.
But no, absolutely, that's more my type. But thank you guys for having me on. Give me a follow on things. I love liking all the tweets of people. My tweets are now RIP of my fans. My like 3 fans that I saw on Twitter. I love you all.
more RIP tweets for Teresa. That's the takeaway.
More RIP Queen Teresa. Anders, that should be a hashtag every week. Yeah, underneath the description for the episode.
We will never forget.
Hashtag RIP Queen Teresa. Yes, but please follow. Wait, no, I actually I want to be like followers with you guys on things. What are your things?
Well, we will send them. I think we'll plug them right now. I'm at Naomi Calhoun, which is how you spell my name. CALHOUN on Twitter, and where I talk about Basically nothing.
And
Actually, does Anders follow both of us? That might help.
I was going to say that's probably going to be my better way to do this.
And
Anders, my. Did you see Anders' comment? Like unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And my Twitter handle is @Steven_S2. I need to be more active as well. I recently rediscovered my Twitter account just for this.
I'm the same. I'm the same for everything @TBerg BERG 15 because that's my number.
Oh,
so
got the brand name.
TBerg 15. Literally, my dad calls me TBerg 15. Like he'll be like, "All right, TBerg 15, you want to go to the grocery store? All right, TBerg 15." Everyone on my tribe called me T. Like most people call me T. I should have just made my thing T because they'll be like, "Who is Teresa?" Except R.I.P. Queen Teresa. All right, I'm going to leave you guys alone now. I swear. I could talk all day.
So
that's my issue.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes, thank you guys. This was fun.
Thank you,
Bye.
T.
Bye. Well, what a treat, Steven.
That was fantastic.
Oh my God. I need to get up and get a snack at some point, but I'll figure it out later. I feel like nobody's gonna judge me for needing a snack after being on a stream for a full hour.
Do me for a monologue, and that way I can eat up airtime so you can go quickly.
So, Steven, what did you think of this episode? And make sure it's everything we've already talked about so I don't miss it.
So, what did I think about this episode? Well, I have plenty of thoughts. So, I think we'll go back into this, but I think Eric is the most interesting character of this episode because he is in such a giant pickle right now. All right, if we look at after Teresa gets voted out, there's this massive alliance of 6. He and Amanda are the only ones outside that 6, but Amanda's in this tight foursome with the South Campus Alliance, the foursome of her, Doug, Tim, and Chris. And so between that alliance of 6, that alliance of 4, that kind of leaves Eric as kind of the odd man out. And worse, Eric has told people, I think there's this alliance of 4. And he told this to Sadie, and Sadie's like, I'm a fan of Doug, and I don't want Doug being targeted by you. And I just see all this chaos that's going to be unleashed as Doug and Eric just turn on each other. I think that regarding the other tribe, Chakasha, I think this tribe is going to be in a much more of a voting block situation. I really want to piece together who's working with who, and are they actually going to turn on Evan or go somewhere else? I'm just not quite sure at this moment. There's just so many moving pieces.
I think what we can definitely talk about first is like the Ivy of it all.
The Ivy World Tour.
Ivy's World Tour 2016.
Because she's just going like from person to person, and like I'm impressed, right? That's what you want to do. You want to meet with every person, talk to them, let them know I exist. I want to work with you. Let's work out for each other. I mean, generally in a season Survivor, right, versus a live game or the CBS game, you can see when people are pulling each other from one-on-ones. But this is Survivor Maryland. This is no one knows what you're up to unless you are silly enough to text them or put it in writing. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that Evan, you see Evan text like Santi, but he never follows up. He never says like, hey, let's meet up or talk about this. He just says, hey, let's work together, which like doesn't work. Whereas I do think Ivy has a little bit more of a calculated, like, let's meet, let's talk. I like you. I want to express that I like you. So that way nothing screws her over. And
more importantly, let's talk about Evan. Because it's solely like her world tour all circled to the same conversation. Well, what do you think about Evan, and what does Ivy think about Evan?
What's Gucci, Steven? What's Gucci?
Oh my gosh. I like when he pauses that conversation with that, was it like Santi at the time?
With Liam.
With Liam and says, hey, person, what's Gucci? I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's doing it unironically. I can't process this moment right now. This is somebody I would have loved to know on campus because I thought he was like the most annoying, hilarious person in the world. I love him. Yeah, and so he's not dead yet. I love him. So I thought Ivy did a lot right. I mean, there's the little worry of, are people going to talk? Are people going to compare notes? And everyone says like, wow, Ivy's reached out to me and you and you and you and you, and she's promised all of us that. But we didn't really get that in the episode, thankfully. Right. I think people just know that they've built, it's kind of like everybody has built these like sort of connections in these webs. And then they've just been like, well, I guess there's Ivy, but like nobody's really advocating for Ivy. Nobody is
within the group saying, let's bring in, like we see Jasmine say, oh, I'm close with Angie and I'm close with Matt. Like she advocates for these people, whereas nobody's really advocating for Ivy. And I'm curious to see if, like, let's say, God help us, if Pascala loses again, devastating. But if there's a situation where Ivy makes it to a swap, I think it will be very interesting to see if Ivy actually sticks with anybody, or if people start to realize that Ivy might be the crack in the foundation.
Well, because at the very end of the segment of the episode before we get the challenge, I believe Santi throws Ivy's name out as potential target, and that's just like, okay, you know, she's tried to make these quick connections with people, but she doesn't seem as firmly set in an alliance to shield her at this point, which is worrisome. Where people try to be fancy and say, well, Evan's an easy vote. Why are we just focusing on Evan? Let's go for someone else, because we can bring in Evan to our own uses. They might turn and vote Ivy, which would be disappointing.
Exactly. That's where I think if we lose Ivy next week, I think that's exactly why it's going to happen. And they expressed that Evan's kind of like, Evan's an easy vote for a later move. But I also think Evan's a wild card. And we saw it a little with Teresa, where like Teresa, people didn't know what she was going to do. And they sort of said, all right, let's leave her in for one vote. And then they took her out the next. But you saw Teresa not checking in with anybody, not talking to anybody about what she was going to do. The wild card is too dangerous, in my opinion, to keep in the game, because you don't know if like they're going to vote for you, or, you know, it's kind of like the Dr. Sean, where like Dr. Sean says, well, I'm voting for Jenna. And everyone goes, well, let's just fucking vote for Jenna then. Like, you know, you don't want to risk it.
Yeah. I mean, because you had that conversation between Ivy and Evan, where Evan's kind of just like, oh, you know, like he doesn't really come across as having a strategy at this point. He's like, I just kind of like talk to people, maybe kind of do some things underhand. And Ivy's like, are you really going to disclose that to me like that? And it just, Evan just hasn't really watched the show either. He's like, oh, I'm going to watch it soon to figure out what I'm doing. And so he's very like,
me talking about my homework. Oh, I'll get to it.
Yeah, he's winging it, which isn't bad, right? It's just as long as they're winning, you can wing it. It's just when push comes to shove, like what's he gonna do? I don't know.
So we also see this. There's like two. Santi is like right smack dab in the middle of this red tribe.
Yeah,
he's got Santi, Angie, and Josh as like one part of this alliance. And then you have like another alliance that's like Mike, Liam, and Santi plus Jasmine plus Maggie and Angie, technically through Jasmine.
Yeah. So it's like like we see a bunch of these voting blocks form, especially with Santi kind of as the wheel of it all. And I thought it was interesting seeing the Santi Mike voting block kind of linking up sort of with Jasmine through Jasmine, Morgan, and Angie to bring the Tape Alliance with that three guys alliance to kind of form some sort of majority on the tribe.
I'm curious where Josh actually stands, because Josh is like in one group but not really in the other, and I don't really know.
Yeah, Andres is calling you out. You called Morgan Maggie. How dare you, Naomi, calling my winner pick Maggie?
To be fair, I was in my head. I was like, I don't think Maggie is correct.
you portmanteaued Angie and Morgan into one.
But I was going to like look up and scroll up, but then I didn't. So call me out. Look, to be fair, Anders, you don't put their names in enough. I need to be reminded every single time who somebody is.
Yeah, I'll be taking notes during the episode. I'm like, oh gosh, someone new is speaking, and I missed their little introduction. Now I don't recall which white male person is speaking, and I don't have their faces memorized yet.
I only remember Josh's name because Josh is so clearly Jewish, and I keep track of every single Jewish contestant on any College Survivor for the fan club. If you want to join my Jews and College Survivor newsletter, please hit me up. So I think that you're right, that this is a voting block tribe. And this is, again, why we really want them to go to tribal councils, because we really want to see what the fuck is going to happen when they have to vote. And I don't know who's in the worst position on this tribe.
Well, so the people we didn't hear much from is we didn't get a ton of Josh this episode. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think his name is being thrown out. Ivy, we saw briefly getting thrown out. Evan, I think, is in a lot of trouble. I don't think we heard anything from Abby at all this episode, but like, judging from how she performed first challenge and just kind of steamrolled the other tribe, I think she's okay.
Yeah, I think Abby was also in the post show that they did. They mentioned that Abby like hasn't really contributed a lot in terms of video content.
Mhm.
So your edit's going to be a little weak. That doesn't mean that she's not doing stuff. We just haven't seen any of it. And I do think that, like, going forward, I bet we're going to see a lot more of Abby. And I'd really love to see the challenges going forward. I'd love to see if Abby actually kind of like steps up and is really like the power player that people believe she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the only comment I have about Josh by notes is is Josh describing Santi's eyes.
Yes.
Santi's beautiful eyes.
The other note I have about Josh, which God bless him, is that I paused during the challenge when they had the idol and he was getting the idol, and I pointed at the TV to my boyfriend and I said, "Is this kid not dressed the most Jewish summer camp you've ever seen in your life?" A Star of David shirt tucked into completely not a good color match, purple shirt, red pants, tucked into red gym shorts, and then just like bandana, sweating profusely. The most, like, you would have thought that this is Survivor Maryland's summer camp, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I want more Josh. I really hope we get more Josh in the next few episodes.
So I was very happy seeing the Tape Alliance grow bigger to bring in Angie this episode, to see the three girls kind of unite and figure things out. Morgan had my favorite line of the episode where she's like, Jasmine has been welcomed to the rank of that guy's alliance, and she's like a leaky faucet and telling us everything that happens there. And I was like, that's a pretty iconic line. I enjoyed that.
And I think it makes you, if you're like one of these girls, you feel more confident in your alliance with Jasmine because you're like, well, Jasmine's telling us what's going on. So Jasmine's going to pick us over them because she's telling us what's going on.
And I think a lot of props to Jasmine as well, because I think the people were taught, I can't remember which the guys are saying, it's like, I like Jasmine a lot more after spending time with her. I wasn't expecting that. I think Jasmine did a great job ingratiating herself into that trio.
Absolutely. And I think what's very clear to me, I don't know if this is like clear or just to me, what I'm registering is I think that the alliance of Mike, Liam, and Santi is a huge threat. And what I'm worried is that because they're such physical competitors, they're so social, and they're so sort of like happy-go-lucky, that they might become the biggest threat on that tribe that ends up having the biggest target on their back, if that makes sense. Like, there's such a risk with such likable, strong guys in an alliance together that they get targeted.
Yeah.
That's my worry for them.
I mean, we'll have to see based off does that alliance persist past the tribe swap? Do they go to the tribal council and vote with each other, right? Because let's say worst case scenario, Chikasha continues winning, right? They win the next, let's say, 2 rounds. So if we lose 4 people in the STEM tribe, I would really be surprised if we didn't swap at that point, right? It's gonna be very different if you don't actually vote and with an alliance like this.
What happens if we go to are we at 18 or we're at 20, right?
Yeah, we started 20. We started with 20. We're down to 18.
Yeah, I was thinking about 3 tribes of 6, but then I was like, no, we haven't even seen a drop your buffs in the preview. That would be effed up if you went to 3 tribes of 6 right now. And I kind of hope it happens, but
I don't know. When's the last? I'm trying to think the last time we went from tribes of 20 to 3 tribes of 2 tribes of 10 to 3 tribes of 6 on the CBS show. I always remember we did it in Second Chances. Right, so we had 1 tribe lose twice, and we switched to three tribes. I don't know. I feel like it's.
They usually go to tribes of 5. So in Gen X, they did it at 16, right? And they gave someone the extra person. Thanks for Game Changers as well. But I kind of love doing 2 votes and then being like, all right, you're done. You're out of here. New tribes, because it really sort of forces the people who are trying to play a more laid back game or trying to just sneakily get somebody out to have to really work hard.
It is extremely stressful as a player going from a large tribe to a small tribe and not being able to hide. Going from a tribe of 10 to 8 to oh shoot, there's 6 of us and now every vote matters and everyone's names being thrown out. It's very scary to play through that. I don't know. I like seeing tribes go to the tribal council, those initial tribes, before we see swaps happening, because I think it causes people to draw lines in the sand, and it can cause some interesting things for the future repercussions.
Absolutely. So let's talk about. I have to talk about this challenge.
I loved it.
the minute it came on screen, I was like, this is a fucking genius challenge. I think Maryland really always has been on sort of the forefront of like adaptable, interesting challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I mean, partially because, one of the first games really out there that was, releasing YouTube content and like putting stuff out, not one of the only ones, but I think a lot of Survivor LRGs just take from Survivor or take from Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
And Maryland really sort of goes like, all right, what are we going to do? What's the meanest thing we can do? Amazing. Have you ever played this Jackbox game before? It's called Bomb Diffusion.
No, I have Jackbox, I think 3 and 4, and so maybe it must be one of the ones I don't have, which is too bad because I liked it a lot because it seemed like there's 2 strategies you can employ. All right, considering like you either want to finish first and get the most right, or you just want to get them all right and not care about right.
Right.
Hold on, let me rephrase this. It seemed like the best strategy was to somehow get the opposing tribe to rush and go as fast as possible and make mistakes while you were able to take your time and do it right. Like make your opponents believe they have to go quick as possible, and then because of that, they're going to be sloppy.
I think you're totally right, and I think that when I've played this game, you're usually, I think, and maybe Anders can clarify this in the comments, is usually it's just like 4 people. But I'm wondering if the tribes were able to look over everybody's shoulders and help their whole tribe, or if you only the 4 people who were operating at one time could contribute.
Well, it made it look like if you grab that piece of paper, you were the only one who can read it. You were the holding on to it. Right, because if you have paper 4, I have paper 2. Like, why aren't we just consolidating with one person laying on the ground so we can see in order versus having someone say, "Well, my paper says this," and you say your paper does that, but then we forget what the third paper says and we make mistakes.
Yeah. I think there is a strategy to being vocal about what your paper says, because you are the best advocate for what your information is, essentially. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it becomes absolute chaos. And if you're not willing to trust somebody is being intelligent and is working in your benefit, it can be very hard to get anything done because you're sitting there being like, well, I don't know that what Liam is saying is correct. And if you don't trust that person, then you don't really get things done.
Yeah, I think what Anders said, the STEM tribe Pascala had terrible communication in this challenge. It showed because they not only finished second, they also got very few correct as well. And so their output really mimicked that. And I guess you need someone to really step up and to direct, or you need a lot of trust. So hey, the 4 of us working together, we're all going to get through this together. They didn't have either or there.
I think also what's really interesting is we haven't seen, I think normally in especially early Survivor episodes, we usually see someone come out as the tribe leader, especially in these games where it's the one person who really cares or the one person who's really smart or really athletic. And we haven't really seen tribe leaders as much in this.
I'd say Teresa probably fits that bill the best.
Well, she does, but nobody listened to her.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's interesting that these tribes don't really have a head of the snake. And they're really kind of, I think, floundering for direction, especially obviously the yellow tribe is floundering at the idea of listening to somebody and doing what they need to do correctly.
Mm-hmm. I would say maybe Mike might fit the bill for the Humanities Chakasha tribe the best, but yeah, there's no clear person. You don't have an Andrew Savage leading the charge for you.
Right. And I do think Mike, I think Mike is probably holding back because I think you're right in that he's probably the person who wants to be the leader the most. Mm-hmm. He wants to be in charge and giving direction, but he knows that it's not a good idea to put yourself out there like that. So we also have, in this challenge, we have the return of the cleats.
So I wasn't tracking it. There's multiple pairs of cleats now floating around.
So Mike also brought cleats as well as Liam. And they both said that they would bring them to every single challenge going forward. Mm-hmm. And I love this so much. I don't know, maybe you also relate to this. When I see the other tribe doing something fucking hilarious, I can't be mad. It's hilarious.
I think it's hilarious unless you're the one who have bruises on your leg from getting kicked in them.
Oof. That's why I never try hard in anything I do. And then you can't get piece to the leg. So is there anything else you want to talk about in this challenge? I think it's pretty straightforward. I agree with your strategy that like you try and confuse the other team.
Mm-hmm. I think you want to maybe rush the first 2 boxes to make it really seem like no, the other tribe feels like they need to go faster. Then you take it easier in the last 2 or 3. When you're especially like if you can get them the finish before you, then like you can take your time. But again, that's assuming it's a little scary, right? If you're the Chakash Humanities tribe, like these are logic puzzles. The other tribe's probably good at logic. They have computer science. Computer science is inherently a logic game. It's a bit of a risky strategy, but whatever Chakasha did, it worked well.
Yeah, I also think we see this in like this happened most recently in the cursed season of Big Brother that's happening right now, where like
I'm not following at all.
It's just cursed because it's never going the way that anybody ever wants it to. But
the joy of All Stars.
So like they do a challenge where you're throwing a object down. You're trying to get it into a point level, and your time. So it's the most points in the shortest amount of time. So if you got 15 points and somebody else got 14, you still beat them, even if you took the whole 30 seconds and they only took 10. So we saw people sort of flub up where they were tying the leader, or they were like a point behind the leader, but going faster. And you really just want to focus on doing your best throws and getting as many points as possible. And then coming in and saying, look at that. I got it. I did it. Because anybody who's going to try and beat your time is going to rush and probably mess up. And anybody who did worse than you, you got more points than them. Boom, done.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry again to compare your season to BB22, Andrews.
Should we talk a little bit more about? We already talked to Teresa a lot. Do we want to talk just a little bit more about the very brief and abridged post challenge scramble before Tribal Council? And let's not get into Eric and everything though. Let's just talk about Teresa and everything regarding her.
Well, I think Teresa, she even knows it. She just didn't socialize with people. Nobody really had her back. And I don't think anybody knew what she was doing. She didn't even confirm with Chris that Chris voted for Dane, which is hilarious because like Chris says in the beginning that he's like, oh, I did this to strategically align with Teresa, and then doesn't talk to Teresa about it. Like, it, oh, incredible. But, Teresa tried her best, but I also think at the same time, everybody else was just so much more integrated with the tribe.
Yeah.
Even Eric, like everyone is so more integrated, and they're so very here to play. Where Teresa's here to play, but if you don't know where her vote is going, then you can never be sure that it's not going to be you. Yeah. She votes for Delaram, like that's crazy.
I think what Teresa did right week 1 compared to Natalia was that she had reached out. She reached out to there's conversations with Amanda, with Doug, with Chris, and she formed some of those connections where people are like, well, maybe I can use her as an alliance member down the road. And I think the time compression here really made it so like she had that one brief talk with Amanda, but I think that was it. And apparently, she hadn't gone back and like reconnected with people after that first tribal, which props to Amanda for like rolling with that. Totally voted with you last round. Yes, we're on the same side. She ran within the moment.
All credit to Amanda on this one. She is really playing the game. She says, you know what? I want Teresa on my side because Teresa's going to vote for me otherwise. Like, let's go. And I think it's a great move to say, hey, Teresa, I voted with you. And I think there is a very, there is something to, I've noticed this in Sequester, there is something to helping the people who don't know the game learn the game. Because that person is always going to be loyal to you. You say, hey, you take the 2 people, you stick together, and you go far. And very rarely, I think it's like the Rob sister, and Matthew in that season. You pick somebody, you teach them everything, and then you say, stick with me, we're going to go to the end together. I think there is something to be said about keeping someone like that in the game. But for your sole benefit. They also just have to be beneficial to the rest of the tribe, which is where the issues come in.
Well, I really think that Teresa's example was the unfortunate compressed aspect of this round where there's such little time to strategize. It forced people to roll with what was maybe considered the easy vote, which was her.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is what also kind of got Natalia as well, is the easy vote. You don't have that much time. People are scared that it's going to be them, so they're going to go with what the majority is.
So let's look prospectively now. And by that, I mean, we need to talk about our favorite, Eric.
Yes, our group chat is named the Eric Fan Club because we stan. What did you think of Eric this whole episode? I'm dying to know what you were thinking.
So when Eric, like, immediately in the episode, it's like, yeah, there's this group of 4 forming. You know, it looks like it's Amanda, Doug, Tim, and Chris. They all live with each other. I see them talking. I'm worried. I was like, yes, there we go. Someone's picking up that there's this group of 4 within the midst of the 9 that if you're going to take out, well, 9 is the time to do so when you have a 5-person majority potentially. And then like he talks to Sadie and says like, hey, Sadie, you know, I want to work with you. I have this advantage. Let me be transparent, tell you what it is. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is one way you can do it to try to use this advantage, draw people in. And he's like, you know, I'm worried that there's this majority forming of these 4 players, and I kind of want to target, let's say, Doug. And Sadie was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. And goes and ruins, well, she doesn't ruin everything, but she goes and she talks to Doug and saying, you know, we might have an issue. I want to work with you. You want to work with me. We've been working with each other. Eric might be thinking of coming after you. Eric thinks there's this group of 4 that you're in. And Doug's like, well, yeah, he's kind of true, but I can't let this stay in the game like this.
Yeah, I really think if Eric had just targeted Amanda, he would be fine.
Yeah.
And it would not be that big of a deal. But you don't go for the head of the snake unless you know that you have the votes, I think is the big point. Because you don't, it's such a ballsy move. And I'm trying to think of like other votes in Survivor where we've seen like something like this happen where someone's like, oh, let's vote out this enormously strong player. And people are like, are you fucking crazy? No, we're going to vote you out. But I think that's really what Eric is kind of cursed with.
I think if you look at Winners at War and the way people were so reluctant to target Parvati or Boston Rob on that initial tribe, they're just like, no, like this is our shield that we want to keep around. We are not getting rid of them this early. And then you see, and therefore you see like Danny is an easy target instead.
Oh yeah, like when Danny targets Parvati is a great example. You're like, you're gonna go tell Boston Rob you want to vote out Parvati? Like, girl, pick anybody else. Yeah, hilarious. And I think that what I love about Eric is that he is so perceptive. And like Anders said in the after show that like Eric says this and he goes, he's fucking right. I didn't realize he would clock this so quickly. Like, holy shit. Yeah. And that's what I love about him is just how smart he is.
Yeah. Well, smart until he trusts the wrong person, which is Sadie, thinking that Sadie was be more in his court than Doug's court.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just so if you think about this tribe, right? So there's this large alliance of 6 of Dane, Doug, Tim, Chris, Delaram, and Sadie, right? So we have this large alliance of 6. And the only 2 in the outs who are still in the game, we have Amanda and we have Eric. But Amanda has her in with was it Doug, Tim, and Chris and her, right? Yeah. That's her out. So I think if he had put the target on Amanda, Sadie wouldn't have an issue with that. Dane and Delaram probably don't have an issue with that. And you might have the remaining 3, Doug, Tim, and Chris, be like, wow, do we really want to rock the boat and push for Eric here? What's going to happen when people see us fighting to protect Amanda in such a case? I think that could have benefited Eric if he had known to maybe push in that direction. Also had the unfortunate coincidence of 3 girls on this tribe going out back to back, but let's not talk about that. But so he pushes for perhaps the wrong person.
Right.
And I'm looking at the remaining players. Who is he going to work with to try to vote one of the 4 out if Sadie is working with that 4?
Well, what we also see that's really interesting is Dane is open to the Eric information, but he is not open to working with Eric. And I think this is Eric's problem, which is not really a fault of his own. He is just in an unfortunate spot where everybody has better relationships with other people than with Eric. And so he doesn't have Dane as much as he thinks he does. He doesn't have Sadie as much as he thinks he does. So it's like what are you gonna do? You can't really do anything. But I think that this is a classic thing we see on Survivor, where like somebody is in a shitty position, but then maybe they get saved by a couple of immunities.
Yeah.
And then they swap or they pivot or it's the merge, and suddenly they are a very trusted ally because they need them.
Yeah.
So if Eric can just get to a spot where he is needed, I think his relationship with Dane will blossom, his relationship with Sadie will blossom, and possibly people who are not Doug might blossom. But I also think, like, if I'm in this alliance and I'm seeing, like, Chris and Tim, I don't really know what Chris and Tim are doing right now. I'll say it. And I would rather have somebody in the alliance who is very passionate about protecting the alliance. You can say, because, like, at the end of the day, you can say to anybody, like, oh, that's not what the house is going to, it's like, that's not what the house is going to do. That's not what our alliance is going to do. But it's a good idea for down the road. You can steer Eric off of Doug because what is he going to do? One vote for Doug? Like
Sadie doesn't do that. Sadie doesn't even try it. So she's like, yeah. And then she goes and immediately tells Doug, which you were telling me, like, her relationship with Doug is so much more one-sided from it seems. She gives all this information to him and Doug is not reciprocating.
Yes, I think Aaron said this in the recap. Which shout out to Aaron, love to see it. I love the College Survivor crossover so much. It's like the better Marvel universe. I'm gonna say it. It's the better Marvel universe. I think that you're right. Doug is not giving Sadie any information. He's not trusting her, but he is taking everything she's saying. It's like, hey, I'm gonna give you $5. And, like, you're going to go buy us some candy. And then you're like, okay, cool, I'll take your $5. And then you're like, oh, but I do have this candy lying around my house. You can have that. Like, it's not helpful. I don't know. I'm hoping right now that my boyfriend's out getting me some candy. That's really what I think it is. Exactly. Like, Eric is a good ally for Sadie to hold on to, and to reveal to Doug is a bad move on Sadie's part. Did you think the same thing? Am I alone here?
I mean, I didn't think it was a bad move, and I don't think Eric talking to Sadie was a bad move until Sage was like, "Nah, I'm with Doug," and reveals everything.
Right,
like,
right.
Oh,
I don't think it's a terrible move for Eric. I think it's a terrible move for Sadie.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think Sadie could have had her cake and eat it too by, like, knowing this information, hearing, like, oh, is there a 4, and, like, hanging on to that, looking at things closely. I mean, we're at, like, final 18. If someone wants to work with me, I want to work with them too. My alliances don't need to be dead set at this point. I want to pick up everyone I can for who knows what's going to happen down the road. Burning bridges should not be the game right now.
Yeah, like, if something goes wrong, let's say, like, you really F up a challenge. It can happen to anybody. I've seen it where, like, you can F up a challenge, but if you have people in your back pocket who don't want to vote you out, like, you can recover from it. But you need to make sure that you've built all these groups of people who won't vote you out. And the minute you sort of betray someone, it becomes really, really dangerous to then vote them out. Like, I don't know. I guess for Sadie, I was sitting there being like, girl, just keep Eric in your back pocket. Just because what good is it to bring it up in a tribal council where Teresa is going? Save it for when you think that you could be in danger. Because, like, how close is Sadie to Tim or Chris? Like, why protect Tim or Chris over Eric, who is willingly giving you information? I understand, like, what I think it is? I think it's very hard to hold on to information in College Survivor because we see it all the time. Like, when I, like, pregame for stuff or do orgs, I never say who I've actually talked to. And these people are always like, oh, I talked to this person and this person, this person. Liam's like, all right, here's a whole list of everyone I've talked to. And I never, ever reveal who I've actually talked to because, to me, that is such valuable information. So...
Well, I think the players don't know any better, right?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
You want to, like, show this idea of, I want you to trust me and let me tell you everything, right? And, like, so they don't filter or omit. And I can tell even from, like, the time I found a hidden immunity item in the game, I just want to shout to the world, look what I have. And then I eventually did, and I got voted out with it. So it doesn't work out very well when you share this type of information.
Exactly. And I don't know if you watched Survivor UVA, which was a really great premiere episode. Everybody should check it out. Shout out to Genki. The series in that season, the first episode, this person is like lying about meeting with people on the sort of people who are outside of the alliance, and people are sitting there like, this person wouldn't go to the dining hall. They're vegan. Like this person, you wouldn't like they can clock the lies, and it's like just omit who you talk to if you think that information is valuable. If I'm Sadie, I would not tell anybody that I talked to Eric. But it's not the end of the world for anybody but Eric.
Yeah, so let's talk. I want to run through here's what I've worked out in my head is the avenues of escape for Eric. Right?
We care so much.
The first avenues are his tribe goes on a winning streak. His tribe wins the next, let's say, 1 or 2 rounds, and he gets safe passage to a swap, and then his game opens up anew. All right, I think that's easiest. The second is he finds a hidden immunity idol and realizes he needs to play it. I don't think that's going to happen because if you only win idol clues by winning an immunity challenge, I think the chance of him finding an idol randomly on campus is just not possible.
Yeah.
The next is, can he get a majority on his side for a vote? I think De La Rom and Dane are probably his best bet.
Right. But he's down to 8 now as well.
8, and so that would be a 3-5. Sadie clearly doesn't want to work with him as much as she wants to work with Doug. Doug has vested interest in protecting his 4, especially now that he feels that Eric is targeting him personally. So weirdly enough, this is actually relevant for his steal a vote advantage that Eric has. Right. Eric can steal a vote, potentially push a tie, and threaten rocks. Is what he can do here if he gets Dane and De La Rom to work with them.
Yeah, so it'd be 5-3, seals it. It's a tie, and we did confirm with Anders that if your person has a vote in the revote, the vote counts. So
the steal vote persists through a tie as long as the person you're stealing from has a vote available. So that means if Eric targets Doug, votes for Doug, and steals Doug's vote, the vote for Doug again, that vote, he would not get the extra vote again in the revote because Doug has no vote anymore because Doug's been tied on. So it incentivizes you not to target, incentivizes the steal from someone other than your target.
Yeah, I think Teresa just found my comment on live reality games where I said I would vote someone's ass out if they made me get up at 8 a.m., which is still true, and I stand by it. Sorry, Teresa. But to be fair, I am not a morning person. I would be so mad. But I think that like what you are saying is correct. The only problem is it's kind of like a question of like who's gonna go to rocks for Eric?
Yeah.
Or it's such a huge move that it's like, would Dane and De La Rom be into it? Could they potentially pull Sadie anyways and say, hey, look, we have a vote. If you vote with us, it's a flip. Yeah. Or are Tim and Chris or Amanda going to be so scared? Like my thought would be pick Tim, Chris, or Amanda. Pick somebody that you're not going to want to go to rocks for. Because Doug, I think, is somebody that people will go to rocks for. And so that way you pick somebody who is more likely to get flipped on and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think the problem is Eric can force a tie if he gets De La Rom and Dane to work with them, but what are De La Rom's and Dane's incentives? Not very high, right? It's like, wow, we're moving from majority to possible minority where a rock draw can take us out, so we're exposing ourselves as well, right? There's very little for them. The only thing that could possibly incentivize them to do this move is if Eric says, you realize what's going to happen, right? You vote me out, now you're down to 7. How close do you all feel? Especially because we've heard in this episode that Amanda's like, De La Rom and Dane are closer than we think.
Right.
Like, what makes you think that you two aren't going to be targeted next? That's not going to be a 5v2 situation once I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. Amanda does clock the De La Rom Dane alliance, and like people are hearing things. I think I wrote down something else. I'll have to confirm what this is. Well, I mean, Amanda gets that information through like friends. She like not only does she doesn't just say like exactly. She does her research. She doesn't just say, oh, they're in the same frat together. She goes, I heard from this friend and I heard from this friend that they like each other and they're friends.
I think I agree that ultimately you need to, I think maybe what Eric needs to do is he needs to pull Delaram and Dane, and then he needs to threaten the existence of a tie, and he needs to push the vote onto one of Doug's auxiliaries that people are more willing to give up, which might just be Amanda. Because I think I think at one point, Teresa's
I stand by this comment because I'm not a morning person, and I would have
deserve it.
Am I like if Teresa and I are in a game together, are we a power alliance? Absolutely. But if anybody was like get up at 7 a.m., I would be like, I can't believe I've chosen to work with this person. Mistake.
Because
go ahead.
So, because I believe at one point, let me scroll through my notes. I think Sadie at one point says, "What is Amanda doing?" I think she was talking with Doug. She's like, "What is Amanda doing?" And clearly, Amanda and Sadie aren't connected. I think Amanda has found this core group that she's with, is working with this core group, and I don't think she's working with anyone else in this tribe, or at least we haven't seen any connections with her in anyone else's tribe. So I think, from that reason, she would be the easiest person to push. Eric, it would be the easiest person to push a vote on for Eric to save himself.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm wondering if this might be a good strategy is if you see somebody on the opposite side, and it's early enough in the game where you can kind of get away with it. Do you go like, hey, Amanda, do you want to hang out and try and get a meeting going with Amanda to maybe get some information out of her? Like, what if you have a meeting with Amanda where she says, yeah, well, I talked to Tim, Chris, and Doug, and you're like, oh, fuck, she's in alliance with Tim, Chris, and Doug. Eric is right. Because I think something that could really save Eric is if they realize that Eric is correct in his picking of the alliance.
Yeah. I mean, alternatively, what Eric needs to do is maybe shift the target on, like, he goes to Doug and those support and says, hey, I'd like to work with you all. I see y'all working together. I can be a useful ally. Dane and Delaram are being issued. They're really pairing up with each other. I feel like tries to bust them. Maybe that's a solution he can use as well. I mean, I don't think the alliances are as set in stone as we're making it think. I think we're only like second episode in. I don't know how many days will elapse, like a week at most.
Yeah.
Right. So like I think if he takes the time, he talks with them, he gets to know them, maybe he smooths things over with Doug, they win a challenge to give them even more time to work this through.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely hope, but I think as the way things are now, it's bleak.
Well, 3 more days and then we find out.
My Wonder pick is still in the game, so I'm thrilled. Woo!
So I think next episode is going to be amazing. It'll be, I think, 5 o'clock on Monday.
I think that's the time every week.
Make sure to subscribe to their YouTube channel because that is
Maryland too.
Yeah, you got to support the actual YouTube channel itself. The views are so important. I think we all know this, but like, you got to make sure you're subscribing and liking and commenting because the Survivor community still doesn't fully respect LRGs. We've seen it a little bit in some Twitter fights, which is fine. Everybody has their opinion, but people put their heart and soul into this game, and we have to give them the love that they deserve. Anders has kicked ass with this season so far, has edited the crap out of it for like 4 years. Like, you have to give them all the support as much as possible. And that's that. So go subscribe. You can follow them, I believe, on Twitter as well, which I think is UMD Survivor. Let me double check. I can't.
That sounds right, though.
Yeah, UMD Survivor. Instagram and Twitter. Follow them. Shout out to everybody. Thank you, Teresa, again for joining this podcast.
You so much.
Even though Teresa probably hates me now since I voted her out.
Early morning alliance.
Last episode too. So I can't take it back. I did what I did. I said I would vote her out. But so much fun to talk to her.
Yeah. So one of my takeaways from our talk is that I feel like it'd be really fun to see a cross university Survivor game. You pick the best or the whoever's available from each school and have a LRG showdown between them. Things to dream about.
Absolutely. I think that would be great. I would love. I would just love it. What if we could go outdoors again and like hang out?
Oh my gosh.
That'd be amazing.
However, the few times I've gone outdoors, the mosquitoes have found me, so maybe I'll stay inside a little longer.
Keep the bugs away from me. Yeah, I'm about to
Oh,
go.
Texas is terrible with bugs. I miss LA.
So also, Stephen, you have anything going on you want people to tune into? Are you doing more recaps and other things?
Not at the moment. I'm talking with Hannah about maybe a more meta LRG related podcast. We'll see if anything comes from that. I'm currently working on a midterm for my students next week, and all these terrible questions I can give at them. I believe I'm going to be theming all the questions based off Star Wars, so I'm excited.
Oh, incredible! Well, speaking of Star Wars, you can rewatch at some point myself in the Star Wars Private Sequester mini, which was fine. And you can also tune in literally a freaking week from now to Survivor New York Season 3 Blood versus Water, the game that I co-produced with the amazing, the incredible, the funny, the talented Chris Lord. We are going to be doing podcasts, I think, every Wednesday. We haven't set that in stone, so don't blame me if I'm wrong. But every Friday at 7 p.m., we will be having a live premiere with the chat. Join us, talk about it. We're going to have former players and lots of other different people on to do the podcast recaps with us. So tune in. Our season premiere is amazing. 10 loved one pairs. We somehow did it in 2 days. This is a great. I'll tell the story. We do the whole season. I get home. Thank God bless 2 of our players drove me home, and I got into bed and I fell asleep with my phone open to the alarm page to set my alarm for work the next morning because I was so tired that I just fell asleep, like just smack dab asleep, and then I was late to work the next day.
I can't. I cannot do a 1 to 2 day game. That just seems too frenetic and too sleep deprived.
We realized that it should be only 18 players, and then we also said, "How about 3 days?" so
Learning, yes.
Live and learn. But please check that out. You can follow that at Survivor New York on Instagram. We're not on Twitter, and join our viewer group. Join the Maryland viewer group, sponsored through Live Reality Games, and number 1. Like Live Reality Games on Facebook and subscribe to us on Spotify. Do it. Do it right now. What are you doing right now? Open your phone and subscribe. I don't know what you're waiting for. Okay. All right, Stephen, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, like always. I really let's all just quick prayer circle for Eric that he doesn't go home next round.
We'll either be celebrating or mourning at the start of next episode.
Yeah, I'll have my black ready to be in mourning.
All right, so we'll arrange it. If Eric is here, we wear black. If Eric's not here, we don't wear black.
Yeah, I wear a full rainbow unitard.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you everyone for watching.
All right, have a good day, y'all.
Bye.